What if I told you that empathy isn't just a value, but a strategy for innovation? That is the idea that I want to explore today. In a world that moves fast and solves problems faster, we often forget that the most powerful solutions aren't built on assumptions or statistics, they're built on understanding. Today, in my talk, I want to explore how empathy, when treated not just as a soft skill, but as a system, can transform the way that we approach innovation, especially in social impact. And to elaborate further on this, I'm going to start off by sharing my story. Last December, I participated in the Young Changemakers program, a unique initiative that immerses students in rural Indian communities to tackle real world challenges firsthand. And until then, my community outreach experiences had been virtual, with little to no direct engagement at the grassroots level. And what drew me in was the chance to step into a real village and not just read about one, to witness daily struggles up close, and to work towards solutions that were rooted in lived experiences. Although I'm Indian by nationality, I've spent almost my entire life in Jakarta, Indonesia, growing up in an urban environment far removed from rural India. So when I arrived in Ranchi, Jharkhand, I came armed with a laptop, research, and big ideas on how to fix things, just like the other teenagers in my cohort. But when we visited Rasabeda, a small tribal village, everything changed. The community faced a severe water crisis. Girls my age weren't in school, they were at home cooking or caring for siblings. I had expected to share solutions, but instead I learned how little I knew. So we didn't open our laptops or talk about statistics or research. We just listened. And one woman, maybe in her 40s, was sitting beside me and said something that stayed with me, that you're asking good questions, but we've had people come here before and nothing changes. She didn't say that with anger, and she said it like someone who had told her story many times, unsure if anyone truly ever listened. And that moment stayed with me. It made me realize that listening isn't enough. People want to be heard, but more than that, they want to be understood. I had come with information, but I left with something more important, a sense of responsibility, and a responsibility to act deeper and listen deeply to build solutions not from a distance, but from the ground up. And until then, I think I understood empathy only on a surface level. Maybe that's true for many students like me because we rarely get exposed to realities so different from our own. But Rasa Beda changed that. And that's when I began thinking of empathy differently, not as a soft skill, but as an algorithm. Design thinking in innovation has 5 steps: empathize, define, innovate, and prototype. Empathizing with the users is the first and foundational step, and that is the input to input real human experiences and not assumptions. Then we have processing, which is deep listening and perspective taken. Third is pattern recognition to understand pain points and the unspoken needs of the people's problems that you are solving for. And then there's outputs, which are solutions that work for people. According to the Stanford D School, which pioneered design thinking methodology, emphasized that deep user understanding often reveals insights that traditional market research misses. And I learned this the hard way. As a Rise for the World finalist, I pitched a sustainable solution for women's sanitation in rural areas. Technically sound and environmentally friendly. By all accounts, it seemed worthy of a place among the winners, or so I assumed. In my final interview with the judges, the feedback I got was that my idea was well framed, but it lacked real insights from the people that I was trying to help. And as I reflected, I realized that most of what I had designed came from articles, case studies, or what I assumed that rural women might need, but not by actually talking to them. And not from walking in their shoes or understanding the quiet everyday realities that statistics don't capture. And this failure transformed how I approached my work with my social impact project, Menstrual Movement Indonesia. Instead of starting directly with solutions, I started with stories and spent months running the empathy algorithm systematically. The input stage revealed this wasn't just about sanitary products. There were so many other factors, such as periods being tied to shame, cultural taboos, and educational disruption. The empathy algorithm showed me that this wasn't a products problem, but a systems problem. In urban areas, girls couldn't buy products openly or dispose of them safely. And in rural areas, girls missed school not because they lacked products, but because schools lacked private facilities. So the women and girls weren't passive recipients waiting for solutions. They were resourceful innovators with existing workarounds and support networks. So instead of designing for them, I began designing with them by incorporating their ideas, their needs, and their lived experiences. So solutions we created together weren't just innovative, they were sustainable, long-term, and truly community-led. Empathy isn't just a part of the process, it is the process. It's what makes innovation not only effective, but meaningful. So, what can we as young adults really do to make innovation more empathy driven? Business research consistently shows that empathy driven organizations sees better employee retention and customer satisfaction. IDEO, the global design firm, built its entire methodology around empathy driven innovation, helping companies from Apple to healthcare organizations create solutions that truly resonate with the users. So the future won't be built by those with the flashiest ideas, the longest pitch decks, or the most important data points, but it will be built by those who listen first, by those who care enough to ask, what does this feel like for you? Empathy isn't a soft skill, and it's not optional. It is the difference between invention and impact, between designing from a distance and changing lives up close. So, the innovation that changes the world starts by understanding the people in it. And that understanding begins with running the most important human algorithm of all, empathy.